This is why you're still overthinking business. And if that sentence made you pause for a second, this video is probably about you. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, and definitely not because you're incapable. It's because you think deeply before you act. You consider angles, you see complexity quickly, you notice second order effects. And that intelligence, that thing you're proud of, is also the thing that's slowing you down. Because instead of moving, you evaluate. Instead of committing, you compare. Instead of acting, you wait for clarity that never fully arrives. And here's the line I want you to remember. Clarity comes after action, not before it. Meaning, if you keep waiting to feel certain, you'll keep waiting forever. Let's talk about why this happens, how to get out of it without forcing motivation or pretending to be someone you're not. If you're watching this, you're probably not new to ideas. You've consumed content, you understand concepts, you know what could work. But your mind feels crowded. Every new idea adds weight, every opinion adds friction, every video adds another layer of doubt. So you tell yourself you're being careful, you tell yourself you're being strategic, but what you're actually doing is delaying exposure to reality. And that delay feels rational, until enough time passes that it starts to feel heavy. You're not stuck because you lack information. You're stuck because your mind is trying to protect you from the cost of being wrong. I see this pattern constantly. Smart people, capable people, thoughtful people, people who should be making progress, but they get stuck inside their own head. They think about which direction to pick, which approach is safer, which advice is right, which mistake would be worse. And the longer they think, the harder it becomes to move. Because now it's just not a decision, it's a reflection of who they are. Choosing wrong doesn't just mean a bad outcome, it feels like a judgment on their intelligence, so they hesitate. The decisions overthinkers keep delaying. Here's what overthinkers delay. Not big dramatic moves, small simple ones. They delay choosing one direction, they delay committing to one idea, they delay putting something imperfect out, they delay reaching out to people, they delay starting before they feel ready. And every delay has a good reason, and that's the dangerous part. Because the reasons sound responsible, they sound thoughtful, they sound intelligent. But stacked together, they quietly freeze momentum. Why overthinking feels responsible? Overthinking feels responsible. It feels mature, it feels careful, it feels disciplined. You're not rushing, you're not being reckless, you're thinking it through. But there's a line where thinking stops being preparation and starts being protection. Protection from discomfort, protection from judgment, protection from being wrong. And once you cross that line, thinking becomes a hiding place. The missing detail. Why thinking can't create clarity. Here's what most people don't realize. Clarity isn't something you figure out. Clarity is something you earn. You earn clarity through contact. Because the clarity you want isn't inside your head. It's in the market. It's in the responses you get, the objections people give you, the questions they ask, the parts they don't care about. And you can't access any of that by thinking harder. You can only access it by doing something that creates feedback. That's why clarity comes after action. Action produces information. Information produces clarity, not the other way around. The real cost of overconsumption. Overconsumption creates a very specific mental state. Your brain is full, but your confidence is low. You know a lot, but you trust yourself less. Because every new idea competes with the last one. Every expert contradicts another expert. So instead of clarity, you get paralysis. Not because you don't know enough, but because you know too much without context. Context comes after action. My own overthinking phase. I've been here. I wasn't stuck because I didn't know what to do. I was stuck because I didn't want to commit and later discover I was wrong. So I stayed flexible. I stayed open, I stayed in research mode. And that flexibility felt smart, until I realized it was costing me momentum. Nothing was compounding because nothing was staying long enough. I didn't need more ideas. I needed a feedback loop. Why intelligent people get hit the hardest? This hits intelligent beginners the hardest. Because you can see the downstream consequences. You can imagine failure before it happens. You can think through worst case scenarios. So your brain tries to protect you. It says, let's wait, let's think more, let's not rush. But progress doesn't come from safety, it comes from feedback, and feedback only comes from doing. Why too many options break decision making? Too many options don't create freedom, they create hesitation. Every option you don't choose feels like a loss, so you keep trying to keep them all open, but keeping everything open means nothing moves forward. Momentum requires constraint, and overthinkers hate constraint because constraint feels like commitment. The fear underneath all of this. At the core of overthinking is one fear. Not failure, permanence. You're afraid that if you choose, you'll be stuck, that you'll lock yourself into the wrong path, that you'll waste time. So you delay choosing at all, but not choosing is still a choice, it just feels safer. The mental relief you're actually looking for. You're not actually looking for better advice, you're looking for relief. Relief from noise, relief from pressure, relief from constant second guessing. You want permission to stop evaluating everything, to simplify, to choose something, to stop renegotiating it every day. And here's the irony, that relief doesn't come from figuring it out, it comes from moving, it comes from taking action. The shift from thinking to doing. The shift isn't dramatic, it's subtle. You stop asking what's the best move and start asking what's the simplest move I can repeat. That question calms the mind because it's answerable, and repeating simple moves creates feedback. Feedback creates clarity. The do this framework. If you want the simplest version of this, here it is. Step 1. Pick one small action that creates feedback. Not learning, not planning, not refining. Something that touches reality. A message, an outreach, a post, an offer, a conversation. Step 2. Do it daily for 30 days. Not forever, just 30 days. Long enough to collect data. Step 3. Write down what reality tells you. What people ask, what they ignore, what they misunderstand, what they respond to. That is clarity. Step 4. Only then strategize. Now you're not guessing, you're responding. And that's the order. Action, feedback, clarity, strategy. What overthinkers actually need. Overthinkers don't need more information. They need fewer decisions. They need a small container they're allowed to stay inside. They need to stop reopening questions that were already answered. If this video feels uncomfortably accurate, that's a good thing. It means you're self-aware, but awareness without action just becomes another loop. So don't turn this into more thinking. Pick one small action that creates feedback. Do it today. That's how you get your clarity. If you can relate to this video, leave a comment. Not something clever, just something honest. And if you want to get out of your head and into consistent action with people who struggle the same way as you, join Lead Incubator. It's completely free to join. Remember, you're not overthinking because you're broken. You're overthinking because you're trying to protect yourself. But protection isn't progress. Make a decision you can live with. Take the next real step. Let reality do the thinking for you. Because clarity comes from action, not before it. I'll see you on the inside.